Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and I have Moongirl here with me, and you're watching the Paranormal Dolls.
Oh,
How are you today, honey?
I'm great. How are you? I'm really excited about our amazing guest,
So am
Mr.
I.
Connie.
So am I. So, yes. So, with that being said, why don't we just introduce him and let him tell us all about him? Sean, welcome.
Yes, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. So tell us about yourself.
Gosh, well, um, I've been investigating the paranormal for over 14 years now. Um, I believe I got involved in the paranormal by mistake. I was triggered by a friend of mine who was waitering at a restaurant with myself, who was very super skeptical, and decided to take him out to a cemetery to have him have an experience. And instead of that, while he's laughing the entire night, I got my first experience of a little girl's voice on a recording of my first EVP, which I would actually refer to as my trigger into the paranormal. Listening to all the recordings I had on my phone, flip phone, before we had smartphones. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, I saw a shadow little girl at the corner of my bed, and that was just the beginning into the rabbit hole, so to speak, of the paranormal. I started going out to cemeteries, just even with the recorder, and I get a spirit box or a K2 meter, and I started to like have a lot of experience. I think in that process, I had a spiritual awakening. Which kind of led to all these experiences that I had very quickly. That been, I believe, than your average person, and it led to me actually having being on a podcast. Someone asked me to be on a podcast and then host a podcast with them, and then I did my own podcast. It led me to meet my mentor in demonology, which was Ralph Sarchie, who was the inspiration for the 2014 film "Deliver Some Evil" with Eric Bana. And then I was on the first TV project I ever was on, The Demon Files, which aired on Discovery Plus, which is now on was on Travel Channel and Discovery Plus. And from there, I published my first book and traveling the country, and just it kind of just flared up from there. And here I am, all these years later, with just I can't believe everything that's happened up to this point.
So before we go further, what's the name of the book? Your first book.
My first book is called Shadow Chaser, and the second one's Shadow Chaser: The In Between. But interesting enough is that I didn't just come up with a random name to the book. Is that a good friend of mine showed my picture to a psychic that she really believes in her abilities, and showed my picture to this individual, and not knowing me, she looked at the picture and said, "He's a shadow chaser," and she's like, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said that he's meant to take shadows and send them back to where they belong. And I thought that was pretty profound, and that's literally why I
Yeah.
call my books that.
Very nice.
Amazing title. Amazing title. I love it.
Yeah.
Now,
Uh,
you are also on Netflix. You had a show on there, 28 Days Haunted. You want to tell us how you got involved in it and a little bit about the show for those who haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, I was contacted on social media with a talent agent about a new project. Like it's happened with other TV shows, been contacted, and it's kind of strange how that all happened. But looking back at all, I was definitely believe I was meant to be there, considering my experience on the show that went a lot further than you actually did see on the Netflix show. That I actually did make a video. If you're not aware, just type in Mercy 28 Days Haunted. It tells a whole 20-minute story of my connection to the female spirit while I filmed the 28 Days Haunted Netflix show, how it went really to the next level with what I experienced with this lady, how emotional it was. And I even did a music video and a song that I ended up writing, which I believe I have evidence of the spirit of this lady knowing about the song and her even humming the melody to it.
mm.
Oh, wow.
Now, where can we find that song?
On YouTube, just type in Mercy 28 Days Haunted. And I did like a 20-minute video where you see evidence you didn't see on the show. You hear about the story. And then at the end, you see the music video. And then her EVP of her humming the melody to the song that I came up with is literally in the background. It's part of the song.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. That
So,
really
can you
is.
tell us where they had you to go? Because I mean, I know they made you go to one place that you've never been to before. So, how did that play out?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that like I ended up randomly moving to Connecticut somewhere in the beginning of the crazy year of 2020. And I when everyone was hiding in their homes and stuff, I was looking for all sorts of places to go investigate, because I'm like, I get really cabin fever. And it's kind of funny is that Captain Grant's, like, I knew about it, was in the background. It was like, yeah, one day I want to go there and check it out. It's like one of those places, but thankfully I never did. I never did go to the place. And obviously doing the show and coming out of the car in a blindfold, and then seeing, like, you know, where are we? And then we start to uncover, where we were at. It was definitely a unique experience. But that place is very fascinating. The owners of that place are fabulous, super sweet people. Now I've been there multiple times because I've done a couple of public events there. It's just, there's so much energy inside that place and around it. And it's literally the proximity to the property on both sides. There's cemeteries. There's just just a lot going on there. I think there always will be stuff going on there. And obviously the interest of the people of why they're going there in the first place is really to delve into the paranormal and engage spirits. So I think that element's always going to be a part of that property. But while we were there, I definitely believe that Mercy Adelaide was trapped there. And I do believe I was able to help her from my belief and my experiences of what ended up happening. And that's what I take out of that experience is, and I think that's what made it special, is to have to stay at a place for so long. And now I've actually done investigations like that where I've stayed at a place for like a week. I mean, I've spent 7 days at like some really creepy places in a row, like Willow's Weep, or Bel Air House. But you're able to leave and go have dinner and have a beer with your friends and have it be in a social environment, and that kind of escape from it, even though it is draining, as we know,
Right.
people in the paranormal, it's what it can do to you. But there was no escape. We couldn't leave the property, and I had no contact with anybody that I was friendly with or cared about. And I was in a property with two, gentlemen that I was never met, and these two guys knew each other for 12 years. Let alone they were two skeptical people. So I had to kind of just, play along and make the best out of that. But also knowing, with my knowledge about demonology and spirits that are negative and what they can do to you on an emotional, psychological level and spiritual, some of that divisiveness will start to happen, and people, acting differently. And again, the isolation and how we were there, and that's all we were doing. I mean, there's so much more that happened in that show than you actually see on what they showed you. I mean, that whole entire show is 3 teams and 3 locations, and the entire seasons, I think, is like 3.5 hours. We were there for the 28 days. Like, we were there. I mean, like, I didn't even think I could investigate anymore. It wouldn't matter if I had 8 hours of sleep. If once we started investigating during the day, like, I would be slurring my words. I felt like I was drunk. It was so draining, but also it was helping my abilities. There were so many different like paths to the investigation on the property and different stories that I was tapping into, and what we were picking up with the investigative stuff that we were doing. Like, it could have went into so many different directions, but the way they had it set it up is that these were basically, 15-minute episodes. And it's like, I don't know, maybe the show should have been called 28 Minutes Haunted rather than 28 Days Haunted.
And you guys, you weren't allowed to use your phones either, so you weren't even allowed to call your families, right?
No. It was brutal. It was brutal. But again, I see the value of that because of what I experienced. I think being in a place that long and separating from the normal social, encounters that we have, that kind of set, the isolation really taps into the potential of how you can connect with some of the, the spirits that are on the property. Because I really felt like I was one of the earthbound souls that were on the property. I mean, think about the souls that were there and they couldn't leave themselves. And that kind of gives this relatability to them wanting to connect to you. And I would have vision of what I believe to Mercy Adelaide at the corner of my bed, and sit there and watching me and just picking up on that emotion every day, and her connecting with me on such a level that just had this emotional explosion one night that I literally just started sobbing. I couldn't stop crying, what she was showing me psychically, and then finding out that, on the recording, because I literally sat there, I'm like, I had this realization that I literally started to hear the chords of, I brought my guitar with me at the location. And, because of downtime, when they told me that I'm going to be a part of it, and it happened really quick and last minute, I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I mean, I'm going to be sitting here. I'm not going to have any outlet at all.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was a musician, a singer. That's my first passion. I brought my guitar with me and I started coming up with songs on my own outside in the backyard and on the bench or inside the house, just humming melodies. One of the songs was really haunting. And I felt as if she wrote these notes to her captain. I could hear these words in my head. It said, I save your lips with the breath of each day. Life is enduring without you. The wind is my only company. And this is when I was in front of her grave. And I told everyone, is like, this haunting song that I came up with, that I've been humming the melody around the house. I'm like, I'm going to write that song when I go home and finish it, because living this every day and being a part of this story with her, it's like, as the emotion just built within me and her connecting to me, I felt this deep connection with it overall. At this moment out of nowhere, when I'm sitting on the chair now, again, it's unfortunate you don't see any of this, because I think it may have been one of the most talked about experiences on the show, because it's very unique to what happened. Is that I say out loud, I'm like, oh my God, she knows that I wrote a song. I'm going to be writing a song. She knows the song. I could hear the chords of the acoustic that I had come up with in my head. It was playing inside my head psychically. And to go on a recording the next morning to figure out, right before you hear me say that, she's humming the melody to the song that I came up with in perfect key to my guitar. That is just so astounding, so insane. That kind of just put me on a whirlwind of a spin of, making me so emotional. And that's really why I put flowers in front of her grave. Is like, I don't care about these cameras anymore. I don't care about this show. I know that this connection with this spirit was more important than any of that. And that'll be a part of, like, my lectures for the rest of my life, because it was just so unique. It's beautiful. It's sad all at once. I mean, the power of love, how it can actually translate from living a life here, but still in the afterlife. And this lady was in there saying, I'm here without her captain. And she was still dealing with that heartache. It's so profound on so many levels. And we connected, and I felt those decades of heartaches with her, which made me so emotional, but also so inspired to do what I did and write that song. And that's why I called the song Mercy, because it also has dual meaning about stop the pain. And I took the first line of the song, what I believe she wrote to him, and melded with my own lyrics. But again, you can watch that story. Just type in 28 Days Haunted Mercy and watch that extra mini documentary and the music video that I dedicated to her and my connection with her.
Now, really quick, for those who don't know the history of the location, can you kind of like briefly tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the main truth was that it was called Captain Grant's. There was a captain of a ship that married this woman, and it was the love of her life. And one day he just got up on a ship and he never came home. And in those days, you never knew if he would come home today, tomorrow, or never at all. And just like the visions I would have of her, she'd just sit there looking out the window, just at the chance that she'd see him like returning, come walking towards the property. The loss of her captain, I felt like she was still, we have her on recordings in her voice saying, I'm here without my captain, as if she was still waiting there for him in an earthbound soul state, which is just so, I can't even fathom something like that. I feel like that. I feel like she reunited with him, with everything I experienced. It's just very, very, very emotional. But again, I'm very thankful for that experience. The way that ended up going there last minute and being a part of that and leading to that.
It sounds very profound. Very profound. And the fact that you wrote that song could have helped her in uniting with him and finally going maybe to, into the light, as people say.
Well, yeah, I mean, on the show, I did pray for her, and I got validation with the spirit box that she got help. And, the day which I talk about in the little mini documentary thing on YouTube, is that the day that the day the Netflix show came out, I was dozing off on the couch, and I had this vision of this woman in a green dress, and she gave me a curtsy. And when you see psychic visions, it's kind of blurry, looks like a bad documentary. I just knew in that moment that was her. She was saying thank you, and she, all of a sudden, this guy was like twirling her around, and put, held her up in his arms, and I had such a good feeling. And that actually was the second time I had that happen. The first time I saw the girl with the curtsy was the night I had the last mix of the song from the producer sent to me. I sat there with my headphones, and that was when the lady gave me a curtsy in the green dress, and then the show came out, and then I saw this. She kind of go up with this gentleman, and he spun her around his arm, and then put her up in his arms, and I just knew that she was telling me thank you for giving a voice to my story, and I'm happy now. But also there were some other weird, strange circumstances that somehow I'm connected to this story, and I'll mention them really quickly. Is that when I decided to do a music video for the song to give a visual, my buddy who's a filmmaker director who I do a lot of the documentaries for, he actually lives in Wilmington, North Carolina, and he lives like right by the beach. So I'm thinking, like, I'll fly down there, we'll film something by the beach to put it together nice and easily. So I go down there, and my filmmaker buddy doesn't really know much about the story. So I'm looking up on the internet, and I discover something that I never even knew, is that Captain Grant allegedly shipwrecked only 3 hours away from where I was in the ocean in North Carolina off Cape Hatteras.
Wow.
I'm just like, that's just weird.
Yes.
And then I realized that Captain Grant, when he built the house in 1754, he said this announcement, which is on the documentary, little mini documentary I did. He said, "God bless my family, this and that, watch over us." And I think in the conclusion of building the home in 1754 on February 13th, that's my birthday.
Wow.
Team Aquarius.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like signs like that you just can't ignore for people like ourselves that are spiritually endowed and knowledgeable about these things. There are no coincidences. So, but yes, I mean, I'm very thankful for that experience. What I had with her with the Netflix show.
Do you feel like, because I know sometimes when you do shows or documentaries and you're not, doing the production, like you're just part of it, sometimes the best evidence is that you capture they didn't put it on the show, in other words.
I was heartbroken that they didn't put that in there, and it didn't matter because I was involved, because in my opinion, I was like, how powerful this is, because if they actually put that whole thing in there, the validation of my psychic ability, telepathy, I mean, how unique it was. She's humming the song, and then I'm actually telling you I'm hearing the chords playing in my head. She's humming the melody, but I'm hearing the chords playing in my head. That psychic connection is so ridiculously unfathomable. And then to actually write the song, and then to have that song playing at the end as I'm sitting there at the grave, to end it like that, I mean, that would have been so astounding for people, and really would have moved people. And it doesn't have to be eccentrically scary, like it's some epic ending to a horror movie. Like it doesn't always have to be like that. But that's TV world. You don't have control over these situations. It kind of just, you're there. But I knew it didn't matter if it was on the show. I still had to tell that story to as many people as I can, because it's very powerful. It's very emotional. And I think it was important to do that. And that's why I also like to do a lot of the stuff I do with Billy at scarenetwork.tv. I've done many documentaries. And even recently, just, this recent one we did, Demon Castle. It's just another strange thing that happened with this. The owners asked me to come check out a castle in upstate New York because it's haunted and they might want to renovate and live in it in a couple of years. And right before I walked in, they decided to tell me that they found evidence of a ritual with a box with sigils on it with the word Odin on it. And I'm like, wow, before we walk in, I'm like, I don't know what we're walking into now. So then I walk into the castle with a buddy of mine, Eric. And, immediately I had this vision of this woman spinning around like in a dance. And then when her face returns, it was just like black eyes. It just growled at me. And I tell my friend that this just happened. I explain it to him. And then we go upstairs into the attic. And then right to the left of me, and he's to my right, and we're up in the attic. Like, it literally sounded like a horror movie sound effect box. Like a literally guttural growl came out of nowhere in midair. and we captured it on audio, and it's kind of like on the beginning of the documentary. And that was kind of like the beginning of this whole crazy thing with this Odin element. And I ended up doing the exorcism ritual on this castle, and there's so much evidence and creepy things that happen. But then this thing would follow and reference and other investigations. And, you know, right around in the middle of the summer after I had done the exorcism ritual on the castle, like, once again, it starts coming through and saying, I'm Odin. I have this EVP. It's undeniable. It's screaming, I'm Odin. And I found out just in the same time that the suspect in this very infamous true crime tragedy, the Delphi murders, that the suspect just said that he didn't kill the girls, that were sacrificed ritualistically up to Odin. So I'm like, to me, that's kind of like a strange proximity alert to me, because I'm like, this is the first time I've gone onto a case where there's some sort of occult practice using the word. I mean, I've known about Odin to some degree, you know, with, you know, Norse mythology, and you got Thor and all that stuff. I'm a big Marvel fan and stuff like that. Right. But, you know, I mean, this was kind of just in close proximity, like, wow, this is kind of weird. So when it came up again, I decided just one day, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to look into this case a little bit. And once again, I thought it was really strange that the girls disappeared, the two girls on the train, by the train tracks, back in 2017. Once again, what date? February 13th, my birthday. And like, I just like, at this point, these are just two big connections to me. And I'm like, I have to go to that crime scene, because there's some sort of reason. Something's calling me there. There's just too much. So I decided and planned out that I was going to go to Delphi to check out the crime scene. Now, the week before, I believe that the girl Libby's spirit was with me, and I was having visions and things being said to me, you know, such as, you know, my mom always told me not to talk to strangers. We did bad. And then she had, you know, things like that. And when I got there to the crime scene, these EVPs were just so crazy. There was an EVP that literally said, you know, I didn't want her to go. And like, intuitively, what I was picking up, if you know about this crime, is that these two girls went to the train tracks, I think, to meet some potentially cute boy, but it wasn't a cute boy. I think it was some sort of catfish, devious, you know, evil intentions with these girls. And I think that Libby felt guilty that her friend was there with her that day to support her, and she didn't want her to go, and she may have forced her to go or something to that nature. And I feel like that's why Libby's soul was more prominent, earthbound, because of that guilt. Anyways, but I ended up praying for her, and you know, a lot of the times I'll get a psychic clairvoyant image of a white dove, which would be a female crossing over, or a white horse, and I just offered a prayer. And in the moment, I really didn't know, but it was like super creepy being there, and it was getting dark, and like the human element of this whole crime, and like townspeople being involved in Odinism and stuff. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm more scared of people, real people, than I am like creatures from other dimensions. I'll take that on. I mean, like,
agreed.
Yeah. So I'm driving back, and I just got this burst of a good feeling out of nowhere. And I'm like, wow, I'm like, did she cross over? Something felt really good to me. And then for the rest of the night, I had this voice saying to me, you took my virgin, you swine, and cursing at me and this and that. And I'm just like, is that what it's referring to? Did I cross her over? So then, and this is at the end of the documentary, interesting enough, is that like, I was in a place in Indiana just 2 weeks ago with a couple friends of mine, and out of nowhere, it starts coming through again. And on EVP, it's saying demon, on video, castle, exorcist, and Delphi. And then it goes and says virgin. And then it says the girl's name, Libby. And then I ask on the spirit box, what's the reference to, you know, taking your virgin? And in a row in the spirit box, clear as day, it says trap soul, freed her, girl, one of them. And it's just like, I had to put that in the documentary too. So it's like, that documentary to me was very unique. Once again, it's like a very unique location. Not many people have actually investigated this place. It's a castle that not many people know about. Then this whole Odin element, do the exorcism ritual there, and all this crazy stuff that happened. And then there I am in Delphi, Indiana, with this other tragedy and this whole stream of events that led me there. It's like, it's mind blowing to me. But yeah.
It's nice to hear, and it's nice to hear that you're willing to put out those unique experiences.
I think it's important, I mean, if it brings spiritual awareness, there is a lot of glorified methods out there of people that are involved in the paranormal that makes a bad name for a lot of us, unfortunately, for the
Yep.
sake
Yep.
of materialistic reasons. Like
Mhm.
everyone loves attention, but I want to have the audience for the right reasons, and to like
Mhm.
and for me, I want to be able to leave something behind and some sort of impact, like my predecessors that I respect. People like the Warrens and Ralph Sarchie and John Zaffis.
Mhm.
People that are respected and have been done many years. And I want to do something that's important that people will remember, not just because I had a million gazillion followers.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's important to put out everything, not just what you think is going to get you a lot of reviews.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately too many of the do that.
Yeah.
And
So
go ahead, Glenda.
go ahead. Go ahead.
And the Scare Network that you were talking about, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my buddy started a new streaming platform, scarenetwork.tv. It's actually considered free now with ads like Tubi on Roku.
Mhm.
So you can watch actually Demon Castle Part 1 for free now, and then tomorrow you'll be able to watch Part 2 for free in the afternoon as well. And there's a bunch of other stuff you can watch with commercials.
Mhm.
It'll be free with ads on other apps as like Fire Stick and Apple TV and so forth in the coming weeks. But yeah, if you have Roku, download the app for free and you can start watching a bunch of the content for free. I think that's a very easy thing to kind of let people know that they don't have to pay an extra $5 to watch something, and it's exclusive content in a genre that they're probably interested in, rather than just watching the same old people in the TV shows that they just keep rehashing over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And let alone I have artistic control and really involved in the production of these creations, just like Demon Cast. I spent a lot of time, and there's a lot of really, really interesting, creepy, profound paranormal evidence, I believe, in that documentary. And then I don't have to sit there and just, you know, cover half of my eyes when a TV show goes up and like, oh no, what are they going to do? How are they going to present us? Or how, yeah. So I really enjoy doing those types of productions. We're actually going to film another documentary next weekend.
Nice.
Awesome. You want to tell us about that? Or is it a surprise?
I will leave that one as a surprise. We do
Okay.
have another documentary coming out about the Shanley Hotel, if you know about that one in New York.
Yes.
Not the one in Colorado, Stanley Hotel. But I've been there many times. I wrote about the Shanley Hotel in my second book, Shadow Chase of the In-Between. Really lovely owner. And interesting enough was that we went there right after the castle, and then we had a continuation of that thing. Followed us to the Shanley Hotel and tried to do a hostile takeover to the entire investigation.
Wow.
Even, I know you said you like stories. I'll just throw it out there. But just to give you an example, is that my buddy Chris, also a paranormal investigator, he's a cop in Jersey. He came with us. He was at the castle, and we ended up going to Shanley Hotel. And actually, our last night in the castle, I had actually religiously provoked this thing, which you can see on the Demon Castle documentary. I wanted to prove exactly what we were dealing with. That's the only time I really provoke. And I all of a sudden I saw a pig face in my mind's eye. My friend behind me started to smell urine, and then we heard a hiss like a snake behind us, all in the same time in succession. So we're at Shanley Hotel, and my buddy Chris started to have a red mark appear, like a scratch on his neck, and they had taken a picture of him, and in the image, it looks like his nose turned into a pig.
Wow.
It looks really weird. So then we're there the second night, and I'm asking upstairs in the abandoned third floor of the hotel, which you can investigate, what the hell was that on his face in the room? And then we literally heard a growl in the room with us. It was audible. It wasn't from any device. I was just recording an EVP. And immediately right after that, there was a pack of dogs next to the hotel, and they all started howling and barking.
Wow.
Oh, that's pretty wild.
I was just like, yeah, never a dull moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to the Shanley Hotel. It's pretty
Yeah.
There you have some nights that there's nothing, but there's some nights that are.
Yeah, it could be quiet there
Yeah.
sometimes, but that's how it is for all these locations. I
Right.
always wanted to know why that is. Like when I first started investigating the paranormal, I wanted to know why I would go to a location one night and it's absolutely insane.
Mhm.
And then you go in there another night and you just hear the crickets.
Mhm.
And, there's a lot of interesting theoretical answers behind that. So I looked up about moon phases, and there's a lot of paranormal researchers that have done, things that they believe moon phases would interact with increasing or decreasing certain nights with the paranormal activity.
Right.
And they had said that 3 days before a new moon or after a new moon, there'd be more activity and things of that nature. And you think about how water's a conduit to paranormal energy and what the moon actually does to the water.
Pulls you in, yeah.
I think there's a real scientific answer of maybe there's some interaction with that, and that's why the veil's lifted more so on some nights more than others, because there's got to be an answer behind that.
Because there is places I've gone, and I mean, for anyone who is an investigator or has investigated places, sometimes you can be in a location literally the whole night and you will catch absolutely nothing. You go another day, another night, and the activity is really, really wild. So sometimes it is a hit or miss. And it doesn't mean that the place is not haunted. It just wasn't active that day for whatever reason it may be.
I was just at this haunted prison once again in Indiana last weekend, and like the people that hold the tours there, the lady's like, it's never been this active ever in this place, and like it was ridiculous. Actually, interesting enough, the stuff from the castle was coming through again while I was there, and like the stuff we were experiencing that night was just absolutely just unbelievable. It was just constant, consistent, audible, disembodied voices in the room, and then actually hearing on the recordings, and it was just really, really, really crazy. Most of the time, I do have a lot of stuff that typically happens with me. I think there's a part of the element of it because I always offer prayer for spirits. And when you involve yourself to that level and you step in the way of evil, you're not just trying to save a person in a house who's having like an evil spirit in their house. That's a soul that the devil's trying to get. But like, in some of these cases I've done, and even another documentary that's, definitely my most proud paranormal film project, very personal to me, Maleficent, is on Scare Network, which you can watch. I believe I crossed over 2 female spirits from a demonic force, and that shit was pissed. And it sat with me for like 5 years trying to mess with me and try to mess with my personal life. And I had to go back there and investigate, validate my experiences, and ultimately do an exorcism ritual in the house. But, because of that element of really trying to take that extra step to help spirits, I really do believe that they will be more with effort, reciprocally speaking, to give you more evidence. The energy will be heightened because of that. It's not just we're going in there and say, hey, do a backflip for us. We want to help you. No. You typically want to help you. Is really like, can you just give me an EVP or just knock something over so I can take off for the night? I mean, and these spirits know your intention. They know, they can see your aura. That color, represents a characterization of who you are emotionally and personally and spiritual level. So, these things know your intention, and an intention is such a profound element in the paranormal. That's how people can also get themselves into trouble, whether they vocalize that or not. Subconsciously, the spirits know that, and the deviant ones can use that against you and manipulate the situation for them.
It's very true. When I go, I usually ask for permission before I walk in. And then once I got the okay, I'm like, I'm just here to help. Get your story and help.
Right.
I'm not here to provoke. I'm not here to go crazy on you. I wouldn't want somebody coming to my house and saying, oh, I need this. I want this. I'd be throwing them out.
Right. Well, also remember that they're stuck for whatever that reason. If they're an earthbound soul, and I mean, I would say most of the time they're there because it's unfinished business, or they're stuck, or they're scared of judgment for the life that they once lived. So, like, we got to show them respect, and they need to be able to feel that to be more trusting to you and be willing to use their energy to actually manifest around you or while you're there, whatever location you are that night.
Right. Very true. Very true.
And a lot of investigators do go with just wanting them to put up a show for them, and like you said, spirit knows what you're up to. And sometimes it's maybe why they don't want to like interact with us.
Oh, yeah, of course. Absolutely. They know. Besides the ones that just want to mess with them and just,
Yeah.
you have to understand that acknowledgement does give energy to spirits. So the ones that
Mhm.
are really seriously desperate for that, and
Yeah.
the ones that have no choice, they'll come forward and say stuff because that connection it makes them feel like they're human again, and
Yeah.
that's why.
They're acknowledged.
Right. And they're earthbound because they haven't let go of the human life they once lived. So that whole element is, it's very profound in that nature when it comes to like, spirits and their what they're willing to do or not do as well.
Very true. Very true. Now, though these are awesome experiences. I can't wait to go and really sit down and watch more of this stuff. Um,
I mean, yeah. I mean, another documentary we did on ScareNetwork.tv is a very interesting, unique story. Is my personal experiences having to do with the Amityville case. The documentary, and actually Ralph is in it with me. He was there in front of the house with me, and actually, what ended up happening is that years ago, I ended up streaming first at the DeFeo grave family grave, and all of a sudden I'm like, who's still here from the family? It says John. And I sat in my car because there's people around the cemetery. I don't want to interrupt them if they're visiting loved ones. I sat there at the spirit box, and this boy's voice kept on coming through and said, I'm John. I'm like, John, obviously I know about demonic spirits disguising themselves. And I'm just like, John, do you want prayer? And he goes, yes, please. And in that moment, I knew that I was dealing with a human spirit because no demonic entity would ever want you to pray for any reason. So I did that. And I was so
very true.
I prayed for that kid, and then that was when the beginning of the weird things having to do with the Amityville case began before me. I went home, I went to sleep, and I had this vision that I was inside the Amityville house, and at the second floor there were three perfect shadow figures, and I yelled out to them, if that boy John DeFeo is still stuck here, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to let him go. And this piano from an adjacent room picks up and throws at me. I felt the jolt of it, wake up and see a black mist go through my ceiling. I look at the time, and it's 3:15 in the morning, the time of the alleged murders.
Wow.
And I would have reoccurring dreams about the house, see the black mist, go through the ceiling, wake up 3:15 in the morning. It would happen all over. And this stuff about the Amityville, I have George Lutz's voice on a spirit box saying Amityville stole my soul. I compared his voice to his real voice on an interview. It's identical. His personal friend watched the documentary. She dropped her phone when she got to that part while she was like, in her living room watching it. She's like, that's him. There's a lot of really weird, interesting stuff. And I think that's what makes that documentary special too, is that most Amityville documentaries is just here to tell you the story and then say, oh, is this a hoax or not? No, this is the story of Amityville, and this is my personal experience, and this is the evidence, the paranormal evidence that I believe is unique to my personal story. I mean, actually, one of the clips we have, if you watch the trailer in Amityville, The Resurgence, you can look it up. Me and the filmmaker, we're right in the car, the infrared camera, and there's a ball of light that actually comes from outside. It's December. It was like 30 degrees out, no bugs, nothing. Flies around the car and comes actually through the glass, through the windshield, into the car, and I'm following it around in the front seat, and until it got close to my camera, and my camera shut off right afterwards. And I'm just like, there I am, right in front of the Amityville house. I'm not even in it. Stuff's following me home, and my opinion about that case is that, of course, Hollywood always exaggerates, but I'm going to tell you right now that story is somewhat cursed. It's like you bring it up, you talk about it, things start happening. And I've had many strange things having to do with that case, and I base that on my personal experiences. And if you want to watch more about that, watch that on ScareNetwork.tv as well.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
I know I have enough ghost stories for like 10 lifetimes. So.
But they're unique and that's what's good about it. It's not, like you said, not the same thing over and over.
Right, for that story specifically. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So,
Speaking of ghost stories, can you tell us a little bit more about your books, what they're about?
Yeah, my first book is just my kind of like a little autobiography of my beginning journey of just maybe a little bit the beginning of my life and how I started getting involved into the paranormal and the first paranormal experiences that I started to have. The second book would be more of that and more cases and more investigations that I was going on that stuck out to me that were really interesting and fascinating.
Do you have a favorite place? Oh, sorry, Glenda.
Do you see yourself writing more or?
I've thought about it. Um, I've thought about it. Um, yeah, I mean that's not on my like radar right now, but yeah, I've thought about maybe doing like a third book about something at some point.
Good, good. Go ahead, Moon Girl.
Do you have a favorite place you've investigated or would like to go that you haven't?
If I'd like to go, I mean, obviously my personal stakes. I mean, I wish that I could just have 24 hours in the Amityville house, just sleep there. I don't care if I was by myself, because that story is so fascinating,
Yeah.
and because of my personal involvement, because of everything that's happened to me, that just makes it even more of that
Mhm.
case. Um, I mean, favorite places. I don't know. I love going to new places. I mean, people ask me that question a lot, and I'm just like, I just nothing more than I like going to a place and not knowing what I'm going
Yes.
to encounter.
Yes.
It's kind of like that thrill, that part of like, you know, because of course there's places that are really active that I've gone to, but when you go to that new location and like, wow, what is going to happen tonight? That not knowing. It's
Yeah.
just the unknown to the investigation, your experiences, or the spirits that may visit me prior to
Mhm.
even going in a dream or in my bedroom or whatever. Um, all that's interesting, and it's just like again, like the castle thing. It's like I was not expecting that at all, and I was really glad that we were able to tell a story about a place that many people probably didn't know about, and it was a castle, and like everything that happened to me is, the whole case is just so mind-blowing, so fascinating, so emotional, so scary, so unsettling all at once. um, that excites me, like just being a part of something that's unique, and encountering these spirits and helping spirits, and all the things that come with it, and then be able to share that story with others, and um, makes a difference, whether it's one person or many people. And all of our discussions talking about spirituality, it's all part of that process. And I want to be helpful in that journey, but every location is unique to its own. But I think that's why what I really like is when you end up going to a place, it's like not the one you have to keep returning to. It's like that new one that just comes out of nowhere, and it totally just shocks you and surprises you, and it's like becomes like an unforgettable experience that you'll never ever let go of in the back of your mind.
I like going to places that I never even heard of because obviously, we're all part of the paranormal community. So we know of, this place is haunted or, the big places, in other words. But when I'm sent to go to a place that I actually never even heard of. So, that's really interesting to me because everything's super organic. There's no research on it. You've never heard about the place. So whatever you feel or see, whatever, it's organic. I think that's really cool. I love doing that. Do you ever go to places that you have no knowledge of?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, just like the castle. Like I walked in, had a vision of this lady, and with the growl, and then 5 minutes later, we're being growled at, captured on audio, and then literally, actually on the video, I didn't even know until on review. Yellow eyes show up watching me in the castle in the room, and they open up and they blink, and it was on the second floor, no car lights, nothing. And then 10 minutes later, I'm yelling out in the hallway, I just saw two yellow glowing eyes watching me. And then I literally said, what just was watching me? And on spirit box, it goes, it looked back. The serpent, it looked, so then I have visual evidence. I'm mentioning I saw it myself, and then the spirit box is saying the same freaking thing. It's like experiences like that. It's just like it's so wild. That really stands out to me when things like that happen.
Mm.
Very true. I'm like you guys. I don't really like to research before I go anywhere. And I like to go to the places that are unknown, and I do a lot of private
Mm-hmm.
places where,
Residentials.
right, where the owners don't really want the excitement of being haunted,
Hmm.
but they want
Or
to
the
know what's in.
publicity.
Yeah, yeah. They just want to know what's in there so they can try to deal with it. And
Hmm.
usually I get called in to try to negotiate both sides, especially if it's what I believe to be like a Native American guardian or something like that, which is guarding the land, they're not going to leave. They're going to stay there, keeping an eye on the land. So we
Yeah, I
thought,
mean, Native Americans, they they appreciated this place. They loved this planet. They had such a deep connection with nature, and I think that ties into spirituality. I think that if you're truly a spiritual
Absolutely.
person, you feel this oneness and connection to nature, and there's such a respect for that. And I think that's why a lot of them stay earthbound, because they just love this place, and they may actually be able to perceive that in the way it actually looked to them when they were alive.
right.
And I think that's a very special thing, and nothing but respect to that element too.
And they try to keep the negative away from
Yeah.
the place, so which really is helpful for the owners, whoever's living there or about to live in there.
Sure.
So we come up with something that is good for both sides, that they could both live, so everybody can live peaceful and
As much as you can live peaceful on planet Earth.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, let's face it, peaceful as much as that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Do you
go ahead.
do you have any upcoming events or paranormal investigations you're going to be doing this year? It's the new year, so I'm sure you have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
or at least planned.
I'm looking into like more events later on in the year. My first event of the year is actually in 2 weeks at the Bell Mansion. The entire cast of the 28 Days Haunted show is going to be there. It's for a whole weekend. It's in 2 weeks. So excited about that, and actually to see everybody again. So that's the first event. I go every year to the Gettysburg Battle Bash, typically in July. But I'm looking into other events and figuring out which ones I'm gonna jump on.
We love Gettysburg here.
Yes.
Yeah, guys, I love Gettysburg. It's the whole place is like supernaturally just
It
emanates off the floor.
Yeah.
You know what? I went again September, like the 15th or something. I was there for like a week, and me and my friend went to one place. She has it on her phone. I don't even remember the name of that place. And we got off and we heard drums. But sometimes they have reenactments. So it was really loud that we didn't even like think it was spirits. We actually thought it was real drums. Like, so we didn't even care. Like, oh, okay. It got louder and louder. And then we would hear like people yelling or throwing like orders. So we even like drove the car around and we're like, well, there's nothing there. So we went back and we heard, she caught it on her phone, which is crazy because she was further behind me. Her husband was next to me. We were hearing it, so we were closer, and we tried to film it. We didn't get anything, but she got it. And then we actually played it to Saphus, Johnny, and Johnny's like, hey, the beginning is like the battle drums, and towards the end was the death drums. And then she also caught apparition. And years back, the same place where she caught that apparition, I did too. So all this was just kind of like full circle. It was really, really neat. It was really neat. So that place is really, really haunted. And this was daytime. Yeah. It wasn't even night. It was daytime. And then when we had gone the time before, I mean, I've seen orbs. All of us seen orbs, but these were coming out of the ground up. They were shooting up. And I was like, wow, that's really, really interesting. So yeah, that place is definitely really haunted.
I remember one time I came out of a hotel with a friend of mine at the time, and we were just throwing our suitcases in the bag in the middle of Gettysburg. And literally, I heard this woman, like nobody was around. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. Paranormal. I'm like, did you just fucking hear this woman say paranormal? He's like, yeah, out of midair. I'm like, cock-a-doodle freaking do. I'm like, that's Gettysburg for you. Just like it's everywhere.
It is. We even took something back with us in the hotel. We were sharing a room, and so my room was separate from theirs. And we're all getting ready to go to bed, and I was in my room, and it has a little door. And I got this really eerie feeling that somebody was watching over me. And then I see this man in the corner, like the shadow, and I felt really uneasy. I felt like it was angry. It wasn't, and it was just upset. Or even I had turned on the light. I was calling my friend Courtney, that too, amazing historian. So shout out to Courtney, we love you. And I was like, hey guys, I think there's something here. And then she didn't answer me. She was asleep. And the next morning I told her about it. She's like, yeah, I told my husband that there was something here with us too. I was like, that's crazy. It like bounced from your room to my room and back and forth all night long. So yeah, it's wild there for sure.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, all the time. It's great. Love it.
Yeah, and that's
Special
that's
place.
one of those places where no matter what time you go, like 7.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Well, I mean, ghosts don't care. They show up to you day, night. It doesn't matter. You know, there's always a misconception like, oh my God, you're going to catch so much stuff only if you go to a place at nighttime. That's not true. Ghosts are, they don't care. Anytime they want to show themselves, they will.
Yeah. There's no time for them. So
yeah, no time frame.
You don't have to eat dinner or lunch.
Yeah. That's right.
So you plan to go next week, and then you have Gettysburg. Is there any place that you're really looking forward to maybe go in, like from what you have seen so far that has been announced, or is there?
I'm actually tomorrow. I'm going to investigate the Monroe House. It's been on my bucket list for years. I've heard about it for so many years, so I'm finally checking that out. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm actually looking forward to the place we're going to next weekend to do this documentary. Like, it's very unique. Again, it's not your typical thing, and the experiences that are going on in this place. It's going to be, something. I think there's going to be some weird stuff going on. Also, got
we like weird. We like weird.
Yeah. Shane Pittman and Josh from the Searchers. Shane's been on Holzer Files and 28 Days Haunted with me. They're part of it. They're coming next week. So we're really excited to check out this really unique spot, and we'll probably post about it maybe next week just to let everyone know where we are. Yeah, that's I'm definitely anxious to see what unfolds with that place. There's such an assortment of possibilities of what energies might be residing there. So
now the place you're going with the cast, all of the cast from 28 Days Haunted, is that going to be like filmed, or is it a special, or is it just you guys doing your own thing?
I think there's a VIP thing where we're going to do an investigation with everybody. And then there's like a whole con where there's vendors all day on Saturday, I believe. It's a whole weekend type of thing. If you go to the Bell Mansion, LLC.com or Bell Mansion, look it up, get more information about that. But that'll be in 2 weeks on that weekend.
Nice. Now, is there anything that you haven't spoken about that you want to let our audience know, or?
I mean, I'm actually posting. I'm going to start getting into like doing my own little edited like episodes for YouTube outside of the documentaries I do. I got one posting tonight at 6:30. But by this time this airs, it'll be up there anyways. But it was actually a little investigation that happened like 2 years ago, summer of 2022, almost 2 years. I was informed about a decapitated ram's head that was found in the woods in Connecticut with some melted candles and white powdered figure on the floor. So I was introduced to the gentleman that discovered it in the woods. So we actually ended up going there and doing a little investigation for a couple of hours. And there's some really creepy, unsettling things that we got coming through about the ritual in there. It was pretty weird. Yeah, I'm posting that video. And I'm going to continuously put stuff on my YouTube of little investigations that I do outside of the documentary. So definitely check me out. Just type in Sean Austin Paranormal. It'll pop right up.
Okay. Perfect.
Can you tell us again where like the audience can find you, your platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to send it to you guys?
Oh, no, like just say it right now so they can hear me.
Oh, yeah. A lot of my social media is at Sean D. Austin, like it says. That's for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then for YouTube, just type in, Sean Austin Paranormal, or it'll pop up. I think I'm the only person with the name Sean Austin in the paranormal field, at least. I get confused with the guy from the Goonies, Sean Astin, all the time. Especially since I got a blue check on Instagram, like there's people massively tagging me in Sean Astin posts and like, oh my God, I loved you in Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, it's just like, hilarious. But yeah, other than that,
well, you do more views at least.
Exactly.
Uh,
And yeah, SeanDAustinaswell.com. You can get both of my books, some signed copies of that, or signed some of my DVDs. I mailed them out anywhere in the U.S. And if you want copies of my books and you live outside the U.S., you can get them off Amazon.
okay.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Yes,
We
thank
appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate as well.
And
Likewise.
looking forward to hearing more later when you do more of these events. And please come back.
Absolutely.
Want to say thank you to the audience for following us. Please reach out to Sean if you have any questions or all his stuff. It's very interesting and unique.
Buy his books.
His books, yeah. Just remember, it's unique, and like he said, it's weird. We like weird.
Aquarians love weird.
That's why
Okay,
it's called
I'm
paranormal.
a Gemini. I like weird too.
Well, we're air signs.
Yeah.
We're the best ones out there. The smartest ones, actually, to be honest. Because just
So thank you very much, and till next time. Again, blessings. We love you. Bye.